Alright, so here's what was shared on ESPN's Sports Center about the Knicks missing out on Marcus Smart, a key player they were targeting to strengthen their lineup. Reports confirm that Smart has decided to sign with the Los Angeles Lakers, and there's some inside info explaining why he picked LA over New York. Let's break down everything that's come out on this story so far. The Knicks have been actively seeking a veteran guard during this free agency period. It's no secret, they've been linked to several guards trying to find that perfect fit. According to sources, the Knicks did make contact regarding Marcus Smart. When Smart was bought out by the Wizards, the Knicks were ready to move aggressively to bring him on board because he fits what the team desperately needs. But in a surprising twist, Smart went with the Lakers instead, immediately after clearing waivers. Shams Charania from ESPN reported that Smart agreed to a contract buyout with Washington and plans to sign a 2-year deal with Los Angeles, reportedly worth around $11 million. This marks a notable comeback for the 2022 Defensive Player of the Year, and it certainly caught many by surprise. Once I processed the news, the big question became clear. Why did Smart choose the Lakers over the Knicks? Steph Bondi from the New York Post gave some clarity on this. The Knicks did pursue Smart, but it seems he wanted a clearer opportunity for playing time, something New York simply couldn't guarantee. After the buyout, Smart was ready to sign with the Lakers, who could offer him that role. Bondi pointed out that the Knicks couldn't provide the specific role Smart was after. And yes, money played a role here too. The Knicks' offer was at the veteran minimum, while the Lakers' deal gave Smart a much bigger contract, making that difference meaningful. Going back to the point about playing time, it seems Smart wanted a starting role. The Knicks simply couldn't offer that. If Smart had joined New York, he would likely have been the 10th man on the roster, coming off the bench to back up Jalen Brunson. While still important, that role wouldn't have given him the court time or responsibility he's seeking. Off the bench for the Knicks, he might have been one of the highest-minute players, backing up their lead guard, a vital ball handler for the team. The Knicks desperately need more ball-handling depth, so Smart's role would have been significant, but still limited compared to starting. Under Mike Brown's coaching, it's hard to predict exactly what rotations might look like. There might have been lineups featuring both Brunson and Smart sharing minutes, especially in late-game situations. However, for Smart, starting seems to be the priority, and Los Angeles looks ready to slot him in their starting lineup alongside key players like LeBron James, Austin Reeves, and possibly DeAndre Ayton. The Lakers might shuffle their lineups, maybe bringing Austin Reeves off the bench. But the message is clear. Smart will likely be a starter in LA, and that's the main difference. If Smart were coming off the bench for the Lakers, he might have chosen the Knicks instead, where he could play more minutes backing up Brunson. This shows how important the starting role was for him. Bondi's report highlights something crucial. The Knicks are not planning to add a wing player this free agency. Their focus remains on acquiring a veteran guard. They wanted Smart, but couldn't secure him because he chose LA for the role he desires. Now that Smart is off the board, the Knicks must explore other free agents who might fit their roster and be available on a veteran minimum deal. We'll keep watching to see who's next for New York. Alright, continuing with the latest from Sports Center, here's the rundown from Forbes on the top free agents still available that the Knicks could realistically target. First off, there are some restricted free agents like Josh Giddey, Jonathan Kuminga, Quentin Grimes, and Cam Thomas. But honestly, the Knicks aren't in the picture for any of these guys. So, let's move past them. Now, looking at bigger names, Chris Paul is off the table. He's committed to staying on the West Coast to be closer to family. Al Horford appears headed to join the Warriors, so that's not happening either. Then there's Russell Westbrook. Much like with Marcus Smart, Westbrook won't be joining the Knicks because he's seeking a more defined role and guaranteed playing time, which New York can't offer right now. That's part of why he left Denver. Ben Simmons? That ship has sailed. We've covered extensively why Simmons doesn't fit with the Knicks, so I won't waste time here again. One of the most compelling options still on the table for the Knicks is Malcolm Brogdon. Now that Marcus Smart is officially off the market, Brogdon has clearly stepped into the spotlight as the top target for New York's roster needs. The Knicks have already shown interest in him earlier in free agency, though no formal agreement has been reached just yet. What makes Brogdon so appealing is his ability to be a reliable veteran presence who can effectively handle the ball, which is exactly what New York needs, especially to give their star guard, Jalen Brunson, some much-needed rest during the grind of the season. Brogdon's skill set allows him to run the offense smoothly while providing steady defense and smart decision-making on the floor. Despite some concerns around his recent injuries, signing Brogdon on a veteran minimum contract would be a smart low-risk move with significant upside. Even if his minutes are managed carefully, his impact on the team's depth and backcourt stability could be substantial. His experience and versatility make him a natural fit for the Knicks' style and the role they're trying to build. All things considered, Brogdon not only fills a key roster spot, but also brings the kind of leadership and on-court IQ that could help the Knicks push deeper into playoff contention. In short, targeting Brogdon aligns perfectly with New York's immediate priorities and long-term goal. Moving down the list, Gary Payton II looks like he's headed back to Golden State, so no Knicks reunion there. Trey Lyles hasn't been linked to New York recently. Thomas Bryant would be a solid pick, but the Knicks aren't seeking more centers right now. Chris Boucher is someone I'd love to see back, but reports confirm the Knicks want veteran guards, not wings, so he's out of consideration. Obi Toppin is leaving the team, and Malik Beasley's name comes up. But due to ongoing investigations related to gambling, teams are hesitant to sign him at the moment. One notable name missing from the main list, but worth mentioning, is Landry Shamet. He could fit well with the Knicks too, as they want veteran guards capable of guarding multiple positions. Both Brogdon and Shamet bring that versatility, but Brogdon is considered the better ball handler. So if the Knicks prioritize ball handling, Brogdon is the logical choice. If shooting, availability, and chemistry are more important, Shamet might get the nod. Regardless of which player the Knicks ultimately sign, whether it's Malcolm Brogdon or Landry Shamet, expect them to come on board with a veteran minimum contract as the team's crucial 10th man. This kind of signing represents excellent value, giving the Knicks a seasoned professional who can contribute when called upon without breaking the bank. However, with limited minutes available, these players should be prepared for a role that may not always be clearly defined or consistent night to night. Despite these challenges, the opportunity to join a roster that has serious championship potential is a significant incentive. Many free agents are drawn to the chance to be part of a competitive, well-structured team that is built to make a deep playoff run, and that's exactly the environment the Knicks are creating. So while the role might be limited in scope, the chance to compete at the highest level and chase a title makes this a highly attractive option for veteran players looking to make an impact. So, that's the current state of free agency for New York. The main takeaway from what Steph Bondy shared on SportsCenter is that Marcus Smart chose LA because they could offer him a clearer path to playing time and the role he wanted, something the Knicks couldn't provide. I'm curious what you all think about that. Drop your thoughts in the comments because I'd love to hear from you. That wraps up this update. If you found it helpful, please hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel for more Knicks news. Until next time, Knicks fans, take care of yourselves, your families, and each other. Peace. Look at what was just said live on First Talk. This could signal another big move coming from the New York Knicks. According to what's being reported right now, the Knicks aren't done yet. They've already been one of the most active and strategic teams in free agency so far, and now, with just one open roster spot left, the front office is expected to make another addition. The buzz around the league is that New York is narrowing things down and currently debating between two specific veteran players. We're going to go through all the latest updates that came out during the broadcast, and if you want to stay in the loop on everything surrounding the Knicks, make sure you're paying attention because this could shake up the roster once again. Now here's where things get interesting. According to the latest reporting just highlighted on First Talk, the Knicks are seriously considering using their final open slot on a veteran, after already bringing in names like Jordan Clarkson and Gerson Yabusele, which were well-received moves, there's still a clear intent to strengthen the bench with one more solid presence. The key question now is, who are they going to sign? Well, we just got some clarity on that, thanks to new intel from SNY's Ian Begley and others covering the Knicks closely. And let's give credit where it's due. Begley was ahead on this, especially with the details about Ben Simmons, something we had already heard murmurs about last week. If you've been following First Talk or the latest Knicks coverage, you probably remember it. The team has maintained communication with Ben Simmons during free agency, but there's now an update worth diving into. Here's what Ian Begley laid out. He confirmed that the Knicks still have interest in Landry Shamet, and on top of that, Shamet himself is reportedly open to making a return to New York. That alone was already noteworthy, but the other part of the report made it even more significant. According to Begley, the Knicks were still in ongoing discussions with Ben Simmons as of late last week, and very likely still are. So this isn't just speculation anymore. These are the two names that seem to be at the top of New York's radar right now. If they do decide to move on a vet minimum deal, it's going to be either Landry Shamet or Ben Simmons. And based on the way the conversation went on the show, there's a strong case to be made for choosing Shamet. There are a few clear reasons why Landry Shamet makes sense. First of all, he's reliable when it comes to shooting. That's one of the main things this Knicks roster needs more of. He's a real asset from deep, and if you look back at his stint with the Knicks last season, he was actually one of their best shooters from three-point range. And with Mike Brown now stepping in and planning to speed up the team's offensive tempo, players like Shamet become even more valuable. When you're pushing the pace and running in transition, guys who can shoot off the catch in open space are critical, and Shamet has proven that's exactly what he can do. With faster ball movement and more possessions, he's the type of player who will get plenty of good looks, and he'll knock them down. Another factor that came up on First Talk is the chemistry. Shamet already knows this roster. He played with many of these guys last season and built familiarity that doesn't just happen overnight. You can't sign chemistry in free agency. You can't trade for it. It has to be built, and Shamet already put in that work. According to what's being said, it's likely that some of the current Knicks players are advocating for the front office to bring him back. He's solid on both ends, he understands the system, and he fits in with the group. It's not just about numbers, it's about feel. And Shamet clearly earned the trust of his teammates and coaches. There was even a moment in the playoffs last season that still gets talked about. Madison Square Garden erupted, chanting Landry Shamet's name, and it wasn't just because of a big shot. It was because of his defensive presence, specifically the way he locked down TJ McConnell. That kind of moment sticks. That's the kind of energy you want in your building, and the kind of player the crowd can rally around. It says something when the fans are behind you, the players are behind you, and the coaching staff already knows what you bring. That's why Landry Shamet keeps coming up every time the Knicks are mentioned in free agency talk. It's not a coincidence. It's because the interest is very real. But of course, there's still the other option that won't go away, Ben Simmons. His name keeps surfacing, and the Knicks are continuing to monitor his status. If it's not Shamet, then it very well could be Simmons. Now, if you've been following this show, you probably know where I stand, and if you're new here, let me explain why this pick is so polarized. Simmons brings certain strength, no doubt about it. He can distribute the ball, he's a high-level rebounder, and defensively, he has the size and skill set to guard multiple positions. All of that is valid. But, continuing with what was shared on First Talk, the conversation around Ben Simmons took center stage, and opinions on him remain sharply divided. The panel highlighted that while Simmons brings a unique skill set, defense, rebounding, playmaking, his biggest limitation still defines the conversation: scoring, or rather, the lack of it. As one analyst put it, sure, he does everything except put the ball in the basket. And in today's NBA, especially in the high-stakes Eastern Conference, that shortcoming can be a serious liability. Opponents know it too. When a player can't score, it changes how defenses play. They shift away, double others, and collapse the spacing on the floor. Some fans try to draw parallels between Simmons and a player like Mitchell Robinson, but as it was explained on the show, that's not an accurate comparison. Robinson may not be a shooter, but give him the ball in the paint, and you know he's finishing strong, whether it's a putback, a lob, or a quick hook. With Simmons, the confidence just isn't there. Even if he's technically capable, that mental barrier around scoring continues to loom large, and that's what makes him a question mark. The show emphasized that when you're putting together a competitive roster, especially one trying to take the next step, you can't afford to use a valuable bench slot on a player who might shrink in big moments. And this particular open roster spot wasn't meant to be symbolic or experimental. The Knicks made cap maneuvers, even adjusted Gerson Yabusele's contract to keep this space open. That spot has to go to someone who brings two-way impact. And that brings the discussion back to Landry Shamet. Shamet offers consistency on both ends. He spaces the floor, hits shots from deep, and defends his position well. But just as importantly, he already has established chemistry with several Knicks players. That trust matters. It saves months of growing pains and speeds up the integration process, especially under a new coach like Mike Brown, who's expected to bring a fresh approach and faster pace. Now, sure, some fans have voiced a different concern. The Knicks need another ball handler, but as the hosts made clear, that doesn't mean you gamble on a wild card. There's a difference between a player who might contribute and one who definitely will. Landry Shamet falls in the latter category. And for those wondering why Simmons is even available for a vet minimum deal, that says a lot. If teams believed he could bounce back and play at an elite level, there'd be a bidding war. But there isn't. That tells you everything you need to know about how the league views him right now. At the end of the day, this decision comes down to reliability. The Knicks are aiming for playoff depth, not just another name on the bench. And as one panelist said, this is no time for maybes. You go with the sure thing. So if it comes down to Simmons or Shamet, the preference, at least from the studio desk, is clear. Bring back Shamet. Run it back with a player who knows the system, fits the scheme, and actually wants to be in New York, especially now, with expectations mounting and pressure building on Mike Brown to elevate this group. The message from First Talk was simple. This next move matters. It might not seem major on paper, but in a postseason series, it could be the difference between moving on and packing up. So, Knicks fans, what's your call? Between the two options, who would you trust more off the bench this season? Would you roll the dice on Simmons or double down on Shamet's proven value? Let me know what you think. And if you're enjoying these breakdowns of what was discussed on First Talk, stick around. There's a lot more to come this offseason. On today's NBA Today broadcast, we got a handful of updates that could have major implications for the New York Knicks heading into the upcoming season. And let's just say fans have every reason to be a little uneasy right now. Multiple injuries are stacking up across the Knicks roster, and while none of them seem season-ending, they do raise serious questions about how the front office, led by Leon Rose, plans to navigate the final 2 standard roster spots and the 3 remaining two-way contracts still left on the table. These decisions are going to be heavily influenced by the health of the guys already on board. Let's get into what was reported. First, Josh Hart, one of the emotional leaders of this Knicks squad, recently underwent a procedure on his right ring finger. According to the team, this injury stems from New York's Game 6 loss to the Pacers during the Eastern Conference Finals. Hart confirmed the injury was a dislocation, and while he's expected to resume basketball activities later this summer, the timeline still puts a dent in his off-season rhythm. Now, according to further details shared on the show, Hart will be in recovery mode for the next several weeks, wearing a splint on the finger. That rules out most upper body work, especially anything involving grip strength or live ball handling. He might be able to keep up his cardio and some light shooting, but anything above light rim work with his offhand is going to be a stretch during this rehab window. Here's why that matters. Hart is entering a critical stretch of his career. At 30 years old, he's still playing the best all-around basketball of his life. Last season, he averaged nearly 14 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists per game over a career-high 37.6 minutes, ranking among the league leaders in floor time, and he carried that load deep into the playoffs, starting in 14 of the Knicks' 18 postseason games and continuing to be the engine that kept the team steady. He's not just a stat guy, he's the glue. He's the hustle, the presence, the personality that defines the locker room. And under Mike Brown, who's now taking over as head coach, Hart is expected to retain that pivotal role as the team's Swiss Army knife. But here's the twist. With Hart recovering and a couple of young players already drawing comparisons to him stylistically, the Knicks front office has to think ahead. If Josh isn't at 100% for training camp, or if they want to ease him back slowly, do they consider fast-tracking a younger wing into that utility role? Or does that open the door for a vet signing in his mold? It's a delicate balance. On the one hand, you don't want to overreact to an injury that isn't considered serious. On the other, you've got to protect your depth and flexibility, especially in a season where expectations are climbing and roles are tightening under a new coaching regime. As for Hart himself, the spirit hasn't changed. He posted online showing off the splint, clearly frustrated by the inconvenience, joking about pool season being ruined. But the takeaway is this. While the injury may not be alarming in isolation, it sets off a chain reaction for how the Knicks finalize this roster and who gets the next opportunity to step up. And that's just the first domino, starting lineup decision that head coach Mike Brown will eventually have to make. Because here's the reality. If Josh Hart isn't knocking down shots consistently, especially from three, he could absolutely find himself moved to the bench. And that's not a dig at Hart at all. That's more about fit than ability. Look, Mike Brown is a guy who preaches tempo and spacing. He wants his wings to fire away from deep. And when you're running an up-tempo offense, every bit of floor spacing matters. That's why there's a growing belief that Hart might be better utilized coming off the bench. A lot of fans feel that way, and frankly, it makes sense. Remember, the Knicks often ran into spacing issues when they used lineups with Karl-Anthony Towns at center and Hart at the forward spot. Opposing defenses were cheating off Hart and packing the paint, which took away driving lanes and stifled flow. And let's be honest, you can't cheat off Mitch Robinson too much. He'll just grab 6 offensive boards on a single possession. But Hart? Teams were more than willing to give him space, and that created some awkward floor geometry. When Hart was coming off the bench, especially during his first stretch with New York, he was thriving. He brought energy, leadership, and production in a sixth-man role that had him in the conversation for Sixth Man of the Year in and year out. He doesn't need to start to make a huge impact. He's a star in his role, whatever that role ends up being. And just to put some respect on his name, during the Knicks' recent playoff run, he averaged nearly 12 points, 9 rebounds, and over 4 assists a game. He also shot 47% from the field and a very respectable 37% from deep. And this isn't new. He tends to shoot better from 3 in the postseason. That's who Josh Hart is, a gamer, a competitor, and a guy who does the dirty work that wins you playoff games. That said, coming into training camp with a healing finger and no real shooting reps under his belt, it could absolutely cause a slow start from a scoring standpoint. No one's questioning his motor or toughness. He'll dive on the floor, take charges, crash the glass like he always does. But it's fair to wonder if his shot will be in rhythm. So hopefully, Hart continues to heal up without any setbacks, and maybe without any wine restrictions either, since he jokingly alluded to that online. But all in all, the Knicks are in no rush. They'll be cautious, and they should be. Hart is too important to this team's identity. But now, let's pivot to another player who's been in the headlines recently. New York's most recent first-round draft pick, Hakeem Dadiet, who was selected 25th overall by the Knicks in the 2024 NBA Draft, made an early impression in Summer League. And honestly, fans were rightfully excited. The kid showed real flashes, athleticism, shot creation, off-ball movement, and in a Knicks system that lacks wing depth, he looked like a promising piece. But unfortunately, Summer League didn't end the way he, or the team, hoped. During New York's lopsided loss to the Celtics' Summer League squad, multiple players went down with injuries, including Dadiet. Stephen Bondi reported that the issue was with his big toe. But the good news is there's no structural damage. Still, his summer league is over, and that mattered. For a young player like Pacome, these games are everything. They're his shot to prove he's NBA ready, to show the coaching staff, the front office, and his new teammates that he can carve out a role right away. And now, that opportunity is gone. For now. We're talking about a kid who already had a steep hill to climb, but he's got talent. Real, raw, moldable talent. I'll be honest, I hadn't watched much of Dadiet before the draft, but once the Knicks picked him, I dove in. The tape shows a high IQ player with great instincts on both ends. He's not a Paul George clone by any means, but he's got some of that same do a little bit of everything profile. And let's be real, Paul George, at his peak, was one of the most complete wings in the game. He could shoot, create, defend, slash, you name it. And while Dadiet's not projected to reach that level, the stylistic comparisons are understandable. He's got the size, the length, the mechanics. He just needs the reps. And unfortunately, those reps are now delayed. Now look, I'm not saying Pacome Dadiet is going to be a future star. There's like a 0.001% chance of that. But he could absolutely develop into a valuable rotation piece for the Knicks in the long term. And for a team that's gradually getting younger under Mike Brown, that's the kind of player development they'll want to invest in. His G League stats before the injury weren't exactly jaw-dropping. 12 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 1 assist across 2 games. But if you watched closely, there were flashes. In that first game against Detroit, yes, the Pistons, not the Pacers, and definitely not the Packers, he went 8 for 13 from the field, knocked down his only 3-point attempt, and showed some real confidence. Yeah, he missed a free throw, but that's fine. The second game, he struggled. That's where things took a turn. He clearly wasn't right, and eventually left the game with that toe injury. And just like that, Summer League was over for him. No more opportunities to showcase growth or force his way into a deeper conversation about the Knicks' rotation. So unfortunately, when we look back at Pacome's Summer League, it's going to feel like a what if. The promise was there, just not the platform to sustain it. Now, let's pivot to Kevin McCullough Jr., another name that's making some noise and might be even closer to getting real NBA minutes. Here's the deal. McCullough came in on a 2-way contract. He was drafted in 2024 but missed a chunk of time recovering from injury. Still, the Knicks saw enough to keep him around, and that patience is starting to pay off. He's been excellent in Summer League, especially before the final game. Through that stretch, he was averaging 21.5 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1.5 steals per game, while shooting 51% from the field. Those are real numbers, and not just empty stats. He was making an impact on both ends. Problem is, even with that production, his future is still a little murky. Because right now, Leon Rose has just 1 rookie-scale contract left to give, and McCullough is ineligible for it. Why? Because technically, he already has a year under contract, even if he didn't log NBA minutes. So, what does that mean? It likely means McCullough stays on a 2-way deal, at least for now. But don't be surprised if he still cracks the main rotation at some point this season. Why? Because the guy is ready. He's 24 years old. He plays like a grown man. He's a wing, a position the Knicks need more depth at. And his game has shades of a taller Josh Hart. Same grit, same hustle, same interior finishing. He could slide right into that 6'7" utility forward role and give Mike Brown another versatile tool off the bench. And even with that facial injury he suffered late in Summer League, he came back wearing the mask and still balled out. That says a lot. The good news? This isn't a Tom Thibodeau team anymore. Mike Brown has a different approach. He's shown he'll give young players real opportunity, especially guys who show they're physically and mentally prepared. And McCullough checks those boxes. So now we wait. Does Leon Rose eventually convert that 2-way into a full-time deal? Maybe. But even if he doesn't right away, don't be shocked if Kevin McCullough Jr. becomes one of the sneaky rotation guys by mid-season. Alright, that's it for this breakdown. Knicks fans, let me know what you think down in the comments. How are you feeling about Pacome, McCullough, Josh Hart's role, and all the potential moves coming up. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you never miss an upload, and, as always, go Knicks!